All right, welcome everyone. Holding by this Q&A. I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Question came in earlier, and that question was, as a non-Jew, right, as a Noahide, right, not a Jew in training, because Jew in training, even though they're still not Jewish, nonetheless, they're doing, keeping mitzvahs, whatever, they're allowed to keep, obviously, have to break festival on purpose, have to break Shabbos on purpose to show they're not keeping it as a Jew. But the question was, as a Noahide, Hashem doesn't need me. So I do the mitzvahs completely for myself, my own benefit. Now, I question the statement because it's not true. Everything God creates has a purpose. Right? Animals have a purpose. Tons of species of creepy crawly things have some sort of purpose in the world. Whether we figured it out, we haven't figured it out, they have a purpose. Plants have a purpose. Right? Animals have a purpose. Creepy crawly things have a purpose. Why would non-Jews not have a purpose? So I questioned the person. He said, I heard it in the video. This person said, or this rabbi said, they don't have a purpose. So I said, show me. So he sent me a video. It was the wrong video. But I want to bring out a little bit what the Ramchal said. Rabbi Chaim Mutato, blessed memory, brings out in Derech Hashem in section 2, chapter 4. It's called Israel and the Nation. Something which I spoke about, gave class on. But we're going to sort of shorten it over here. I'm going to mention a few things. One is, Adam, before he sinned, was on a very high level, extremely high level than anything else. Had he stayed on that level and not sinned, he would have been elevated himself, perfect himself. Go into Gan Eden, go into paradise. That would have been it. That would have been it for creation. Purpose of creation done. But he sinned. He would have given birth to future generations. Still at that level. Still at that very high level. Now, these people, these generations, the Ramchal says, that were born of Adam, were supposed to exist different levels. Not everyone, obviously, at the same level. Right? Some generations be primary, others secondary. Right? Depending on importance of what God wants from them and what they're supposed to do in the world. In any case, Adam sinned, the Ramchal says, and mankind fell. Mankind fell in general from its original height. It remains on a degraded level, says the Ramchal. They're on a much lower level, much lower level. Now, there were certain things they could understand at that level, and children that they have were also on that level. Right? He says, man can only anticipate on a very much lower level. And there was this state, children were born. They're on a lower level, in short. They're in a degraded state. But there's still an elevated aspect of man that wasn't completely extinguished, says the Ramchal. So, therefore, even after the sin, Adam's not totally thrown aside. He's got the ability to raise himself to a higher spiritual level. But we have free choice. We can choose the right thing, wrong thing. The God gave Adam's descendants a choice to strengthen themselves, elevate themselves from this lower state. We understand that is by taking on mitzvahs. By making that covenant. So if they take on the mitzvahs, and they're obligated in the mitzvahs, they're in a different level. If they don't take on the covenants, they're not interested in taking on the covenant on a lower level because they don't have the same level of the soul. They don't have the same mitzvahs that they do. So he says that mankind had the ability to rectify the spiritual damage. They had an opportunity to fix this up in order to reach a higher degree of excellence. And at that time, he says, when can a person do that? Really join and be part of this was by the generation separation, i.e. Tower of Babel. By the time of the Tower of Babel. And there were some righteous people who preached the truth. Methuselah, Shem, Aver, etc. But then people went astray. God's attribute of justice decrees that this time going to come to an end. So anyone who wanted to join, be part of this, could have joined then. If not, they stay on their lower level. And the Ramchal says, according to the higher judgments, none of them deserve to rise above this degraded level to which Adam and his children had fallen until Abraham. He elevated himself, had the ability to elevate others, and he would produce branches. Father a nation, possessing his character traits, his characteristics. And then the world's divided into 70 nations. Each has their own particular place in a scheme. But they remained on a level of man, says the Ramchal, on a lower state. They're on a lower state over here. Now, what's the reason? The reason has to do with mitzvah. If they want to join Abraham, be part of it, great. If not, they're on a lower level. So, God says, Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, all families of the earth will be blessed through you. That's why Abraham's called the father of all converts, the father of all nations. Now, anyone who wants to be part of it, very good. You don't want to be a part of it? Okay. So Abraham's tree had 600,000 branches. Those are the individuals who left Egypt, the men between the ages of 20 and 60, not including women and children. But he also gave the nation the last chance. He's a suspended final judgment until revelation of Mount Sinai. If they join, I mean, you got a lot of time over here between the Tower of Babel and Mount Sinai. But God had mercy, the Ramchal said. If any nation would have accepted the Torah, they could have been elevated. They would have been in an elevated state. They didn't want to accept the Torah, okay. They're in a lower state because they don't have mitzvahs. They don't have as many mitzvahs. But they have the ability to be righteous and to have a portion of the world to come. Now, let's make clear, because this is where it gets dicey. This is where it gets dicey over here. Because the question was, as a Noahide, Hashem doesn't need me. Right? That was the statement. Now, if that was true, so again, I didn't hear this rabbi say it. And if he did, it goes against what this says over here. Right? Now, I can't imagine he said it. But the Ramchal here says that the Kriya, now again, you want to accept the Torah, that's great. You have an elevated soul. You don't want to accept the Torah, you have a lower level soul. Doesn't mean you can't have a portion of the world to come. Doesn't mean you don't have mitzvahs to do. Doesn't mean you can't be righteous. But the decree, however, says the Ramchal, section 2, chapter 4, paragraph 6. Anyone who wants to look it up in Derech Hashem, he says that the decree, however, was not the other nation should be destroyed. See, if you tell me non-Jews have no purpose, and they're no purpose for nothing, then why are they here? Why do we need them? Because otherwise, just take Abraham. Whoever follows him, great. They'll be part of this elevated nation. Everyone else will die. Wipe everybody out. Wipe them off the face of the map. Is that what happened? No. Says the Ramchal, and I'm quoting the decree again, section 2, chapter 4, paragraph 6. Derech Hashem. Anyone wants to look it up. The decree, however, is not the other nation should be destroyed. It only meant they would have to remain on a lower level. Now, had Adam not sinned, there is no lower level. There wouldn't have been a lower level. Would have elevated himself and more and more and more till he got to the Garden of Eden. That would have been it. But that didn't happen. He sinned. Had Adam not sinned, there wouldn't be this lower state. So they still have human aspects. They're blemished on a lower level. Might not politically correct to say, but we're not interested in being politically correct. We don't want to know what the Torah says, what the purpose of life is. And the Jews have an elevated soul by accepting the Torah. Non-Jews want it, fine. Right? They don't have to have it. But he says they were given commandments. They could attain material, spiritual advantages. And these are the 7 Noahide Laws. These are the 7 universal commandments given to the children of Noah. Now, the souls of righteous Gentiles, there'll be a place for them to go. Now, everything we've said up until this point, does that sound like they have no purpose? They have a purpose. He just said they're just on the same level. They're in a lower state, okay. But he said they're given commandments, universal commandments, where they can attain both material and spiritual advantages appropriate to their nature. Now, if that's true, then doesn't that mean they have a purpose? Everything in the world has a purpose. Whether we understand exactly what that purpose is or not. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose. Why would God create it? Why would God put it in the world? Would make no sense to have it in the world if it's got no purpose. I want to tell me science hasn't figured out what, this species of fish is for, or these insects, or these plants, or other things. So what? What do I get what science has figured out or not figured out? Irrelevant. The question is, does it have a purpose? It has a purpose. What's the purpose? We haven't figured out yet. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose. And there could be things God didn't want in the world anymore. And he got rid of because he had no purpose for them anymore. Dinosaurs, for instance, God had no purpose for them. Other animals gone extinct, has no purpose for them. But see, the premise of the question doesn't make any sense. Because the question was, let's just rephrase the question, right? As a Noahide, Hashem doesn't need me. So he's saying God doesn't need non-Jews. Doesn't need non-Jews in the world. So then the second part is, well, if I do mitzvahs, what's the purpose if he has no purpose from me? That's really the question. Can I do it myself? Is there any benefit? Of course there's a benefit. We mentioned there are benefits. But the obvious answer would be, if God had no purpose for Noahides, for non-Jews, in general, so the Ramchal says they should have been destroyed. They absolutely should have been destroyed. So why didn't God destroy them? See, something that doesn't have a purpose in this world, forget Kabbalah, forget anything else. Anything doesn't have a purpose in this world won't exist. Got no purpose. Why would God want it? He didn't create anything in this world that doesn't have a purpose. So why would he create, 3/4 of a species or 9/10 of a species, not including Jews? They have no purpose. Because if they would have no purpose, then God wouldn't have put them in the world. Let them all die of a plague. Let them all, I don't know, he'll murder them. He'll get rid of them. Earthquake, tsunami, whatever. And the Jews will stay. No matter how many of them there are. Whether they're going to be 10 million, 15 million, 4 million. So you only have a world of Jews. You want to tell me we don't need non-Jews? Now we mentioned non-Jews who do the right thing. They have a portion of the world to come. That doesn't seem like they have no purpose. Certainly not. There are benefits. Are they on the same level of Jews? No. Now someone's going to say, come on. That's right. That's racist. Goes against, Declaration of Independence. We're all equal. Is the Kohen the same as the Levi? No. They're from the same tribe. Can they do the same things? No. And if you don't live in the land of Israel, are there certain mitzvahs you can't do? Can't do. Truma Meiser. Right? One of them, taking tithes from fruits and vegetables. Sabbatical year. Right? I heard a story. A friend of mine's on a plane. This woman tells him, she keeps a sabbatical year outside of Israel. So this friend of mine said, well, it's very nice, except it's only supposed to be in Israel. That's what the Torah says. Going to leave their own land fallow outside of Israel. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right? Over here, they have no purpose at all. The difference is they have less commandments. Now again, not being politically correct, the Ramchal says, and he states clear, man should have been on an elevated state. Adam ate from the tree, brought him down to a much lower level. Now, how did he elevate himself? How is it possible to elevate himself to a higher level? Comes along Abraham. God makes a covenant. God says anyone can join that covenant up until the Tower of Babel. But God had mercy, even till Mount Sinai. He gave him more time till Mount Sinai. You want to join? Fine. You don't want to join? That's your choice. You can still have a portion of the world to come. There are still mitzvahs that apply to you. So very good. But is that the same as a Jew? No. See, this is where it gets dicey, because then someone's going to say, doesn't the Torah say the Jewish people are the chosen people? Yeah, we chose God. He chose us. You want to join? Fine. You don't want to join? That's your choice. But what does it mean that we're chosen? People say, that means you're better. Doesn't mean we're better. If a Jew acts like a non-Jew, they don't keep Shabbos, they don't keep Torah, they don't keep mitzvahs, right? They do the same exact things that non-Jews are. Are they any better than non-Jews? No. Worse. In many ways. That was the thing by the Holocaust. Secular Jews didn't understand. Why are you picking on us? Why do you want to kill us? Kill the ones that are separate. They don't eat your food. It's exactly what Haman said to Achashverosh. What all anti-Semites say, Jewish anti-Semites too. They don't eat your same food. They don't dress the same way. You touch their wine, they won't drink it. It's got spiritual cooties. What do you want from us? They're different. We went to your schools. We married your women. We fought in your wars. And what did Hitler Yamach Shemoy V'Zichro say? May his name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is. What did he say? Doesn't matter. Get Jewish blood, that's enough. I don't care which side. I don't care what, how many generations before. You got Jewish blood, that's it. We're going to wipe you out. Finished? So now to say, so now non-Jews, they have the same, they have the same mitzvahs that Jews have? No. How are Jews elevated? What, we have the super DNA? Makes us better if we do nothing? If we don't keep any mitzvahs? No. We degrade the body, we degrade the soul. Doesn't make any difference between us and non-Jews. You're going to say what? Yeah, non-Jews this, non-Jews that. They do all kinds of bad things. Look what the Torah says. They have to keep what's universal. What makes sense? Don't kill. Don't be immoral. Don't do idolatry. A lot of things. But a non-Jew can never have a claim after 120 years. I didn't know this. I didn't hear anything about Noahides. What I'm supposed to keep. God's going to say, what are you, a fool? No, you're not allowed to steal. Come on. Uncle Sam is different. I'll declare what I want to declare. Know somebody. Right? Certain profession, all cash business. So what does it mean it's all cash? They declare what they want. What does that tell you? They're going to declare exactly what they want. Not too much, not too little. Maybe the person 100% is honest. Okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But someone who has an all-cash business, there's a lot of leeway. What they can declare. And obviously the government finds out they have 3 houses and other things, and they're only claiming they're making X amount, they're in trouble. So they're not going to be stupid. They'll put in other people's names, different things. But essentially, that's stealing. Why isn't that stealing? No, come on. Uncle Sam is different. He takes 33%. That's different. What about pulling the plug on somebody? No, that's not murder. That's mercy. Put them out of my own misery. They're suffering. You didn't know you're not allowed to murder? No, but they have a whole agenda. They're not going to have a claim. They're going to have zero claim over here. No possible way they can answer. Because these things are universal. And God's not going to zap someone if he doesn't give him a fair chance. Because, hey, I didn't know about this. This is something I couldn't have known. Oh, if he couldn't have known, that's a different issue. But it has to be fair. So how can it be? Again, I don't believe the person made the statement. This rabbi made the statement. But if he did make the statement, he's off his rocker. It's 100% wrong. Non-Jews don't have any purpose at all. None. Then I would go on record as we are recording. I would say if that was the case, then everyone would be Jewish. Either the whole world would be Jewish or a portion would be Jewish and everyone else would be dead. That's exactly what the Ramchal said. So what do we need non-Jews for? He doesn't say that non-Jews get destroyed. They have a purpose in the world. If they're righteous, they'll have a portion of the world to come. Now, is it going to look the same as a Jew? No. Because they don't have as many mitzvahs. But can a non-Jew be more righteous than a Jew if a Jew doesn't keep what he's supposed to keep? 100%. 100%. What makes us different? What makes us different over here? If we don't keep Torah mitzvah? Nothing. If a Jew doesn't keep Torah mitzvah, is he any different than a non-Jew? No. And you can see how they dress, how they act, how they speak. You wouldn't know the difference they were Jewish unless they had Jewish distinctive features like a hooked nose. Or the way they talk. Sometimes you can tell how Jews talk. But if not, you would know the difference. And some Jews will try and show that, even though they were born Jewish, they're going to try and out non-Jew the non-Jew. They're going to go to the nth degree to show how we fit in. There's no problem. We're just like you, etc. Just like the secular Jew says to the Nazis. I don't get it. We're just like you. But they went too far. Into marriage, other things, they went way too far. Trying to show how much they fit in. The old question of double loyalty. You Jew or you're for the state, are you wherever you live, you're an American in Albania, whatever. Does that come first, or as you as a Jew in Israel, does that come first? The obvious question of double loyalty. But without even getting into that, there's a very simple answer. And the simple answer is that if they had no purpose in the world, non-Jews had no purpose in the world, they wouldn't be here. Simple. Why are they here? We don't need them. No offense, any non-Jews listening. What do we need you for? If the whole world's created for the sake of the Jewish people, which is true, because we're the only ones who accepted the Torah, what do we need non-Jews for? True, it's a good question. But obviously they have a purpose if they're here. Can't be they're here for no reason. And not only that, if we hold that non-Jews have a portion of the world to come, then that means they do have a purpose. So the question is really not a question over here, because I don't believe the person said it. And if they did say it, I'd love to hear the context. Because the statement itself doesn't make sense. Because the simple answer is, then why are non-Jews here? As the Ramchal states, you don't need them. Destroy them, but that's not what happened. Non-Jews are still here. So obviously they have a purpose. If they didn't have a purpose, they would have disappeared. Like anything that doesn't have a purpose disappears. That's how I would answer that. Someone asks that because we get the Messianic times, it means more and more Noahides will come. Well, that's what's supposed to happen. That is one of the prophecies. That is one of the prophecies. That a non-Jew, is going to pull on a Jew's sitters and say, I want to learn Torah. And you see, it's unprecedented. People coming out of the woodworks, leaving Christianity, paganism, wanting to learn about mitzvahs, what the Torah has to say. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, maybe had a handful, maybe. That's why there's no code of Jewish law in this topic. Didn't apply. Who's coming out to be a Noahide in a Christian world, in a very Christian world? They ain't coming out for that. Would have been killed. Wasn't possible for them to come out of it. The last 70, 80 years, different issue. It's a different world today. I would like to say a little more tolerant world, but I'm not going to say that. But the stakes have changed. The Christians are not as powerful as they once were. So therefore, a lot of these things years ago didn't apply. And that's why there are no, there's no number of laws of non-Jews and whatever for the sake of Noahides. Doesn't exist. So before the Messiah comes is what's supposed to be also. There are going to be non-Jews coming out of the woodworks to be Noahides, coming out of Christianity, coming out of paganism. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. The problem is, someone points out, there are a lot of Noahides online, right? They don't have communities because they're all spread out. There are a few communities here and there, but most of them are spread out. Most people are spread out. So the best thing is they have online. That's the only thing they have. So we're working to change that, but like anything else, it's going to take time. It's definitely going to take time. It's certainly better for non-Jews to live within striking distance of a Jewish community, but at the same time, they should have their own teachers, their own, communities. Problem is, they're all spread out. That's the main problem. Lack of knowledge, another problem, which we're busy training, non-Jews to be Noahide leaders. Whatever, that's the works. That's what we're doing now. But Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And you got to change people's mentality also. And Noahides, in general, a lot of them don't think they should have to pay for anything. Got everything free from the church. Why should we pay for anything? Well, you want to set up a community, a learning center. It's going to take three things: kesef, geld, and money. All three. All you need is one. But you don't need serious money. You don't need huge amounts of money. But you need to be able to sustain it. If no one's willing to put money down and help the cause, obviously it's not going to be sustained. But there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Because, people say, look, it's all this Torah, that's free. So why should I pay for certain things? That's true. But if you want to build something, go back to Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. You want to build something, it's going to take money. So people would have to pull money together. And someone who thinks I'm not putting money down and I want everything for free, okay, you don't have anything. Again, we're not talking serious amounts of money here, per se, but you need enough people to sustain it. You can have online classes, bring people in to speak, different things, but they have a place to go, not just to learn. Also for social things. People need social things. That's one of the hardest things by non-Jews, by Noahides. They can't get together with people who speak their language because they're all spread out. Right? That's the main problem. So then the question is, are they going to be more public and multiply? I mean, it's going to be a significant number. And there are probably a lot more people out there that, we don't necessarily know about. But again, the main problem is, there are two problems. One is, what does the person do when they come out of Christianity? Or they come out of paganism, or wherever they come from? What do they do? Where do they go? What can they do? What are they supposed to do? That's the first question. And then the second question is, okay, now that you got a little bit of guidance which way to go, and what a person is going to do, now they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. Right? Even as a non-Jew. Right? Even as a Noahide. So now what? So the only other alternative is to have things online. That's it. That's all they have. And people beat themselves up a lot because they finally, come out of it. They want truth, all these great things. And now they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. So by someone who wants to convert, the problem, now I have to move, what about a job? I mean, all kinds of things come up. But here the problem is, okay, they have a certain mentality now. And now they got no one to share it with. That's a huge problem. Huge problem. Like someone told me a while ago, I just want to be able to go out with someone who's on my wavelength, just go over a cup of coffee, something. They live in a major city. They know one other Noahide in the entire place. That's like 3 hours away or something. That's the main problem. Education's an issue. I mean, also part of the problem. But the main part of the problem is, where are they all? They're all scattered. So yeah, it's, we're working on that. Not going to be an easy thing to fix, but it's part of the project, so to speak. Someone don't imagine the interesting public figures to be Noahide. So there's some wacko out there that thinks that we should be, convincing the Christians to be Noahides and to have people in public office as Noahides. First of all, that might not be a bad idea. Someone in public office is a Noahide, but not my job to convince a Christian to do that. To be a Noahide, or to convince a Muslim or anyone else. Right? It's not our job, regardless of what anyone says. Not our job. They come to us, it's one thing. I'm not out there. We're not out there proselytizing. Some say we have to. Rabbi holds not that way. Very strongly not that way. No source is such a thing. There is a source to bring back Jews that don't know anything about Judaism. That's because all Jews are intertwined. Non-Jews, these things are universal. If they want the truth, they'll find it. They'll find it. Because the Talmud says, you want to go in the right direction, God will help you. You want to go in the wrong direction? Okay, God won't stop you. But these things are universal. So people will find it. Might take them time, but not my job to go out and proselytize. Not at all. But I would agree. If there were more public figures that would know Noahides, 100%. Someone made the claim that, if there'd be more Noahides, there wouldn't be any more anti-Semitism. Now, I would agree anti-Semitism might go down a little bit. It's never going to disappear. That's a mistake. Why do I say it's not going to disappear? Because Esav hates Yaakov. The fact that Esav hates Yaakov, when's that ever going to change? When the Messiah comes. Not going to change before. Will it bring the numbers and stats down of anti-Semitism? It could, depending on the numbers, but it's not going to eradicate it. Totally not going to eradicate it. So someone asked, so the Ramchal said in Derech Hashem that the non-Jews had an opportunity to want to join Abraham and be part of it, and be part of that covenant and walk with God at the time of the Tower of Babel. In that time period, that was a cutoff point. In other words, after that, they're not allowed to be part of it anymore. That was really the first cutoff point. But the Ramchal says God had mercy. So God gave an opportunity to Mount Sinai. And once Mount Sinai came after that, you want to be part of the covenant, you got to convert. That's what you have to do. So the Tower of Babel was the first cutoff point. Someone asks why the Christians become so prolific. That's a good question. That you see, interesting enough, how many people have died in JC's name? Even if his disciples made him who he was. And even though he certainly wasn't popular at all at the time of the Talmud, at least according to our sources, wasn't anything. But it is interesting that, God gave him a real power. Now, it could be, Rabbi Shua ben Prachia, they say, was his Rebbe, and made a disgusting comment about him, and he asked him for forgiveness, he threw him out. Asked him forgiveness the second time, threw him out. Third time, came to ask for forgiveness, he was in the middle of saying the Shema. And he couldn't say anything. So then he went out and did what he did. Now, Rabbi Shua ben Prachia, even though he had great patience teaching, some students 400 times the same lesson, and all that, there was a claim against him that he hit him too hard. That he pushed him away way too hard. And because of that, could be, this is why. Could be other reasons. Could be other reasons but I'll give you a very simple reason. Well, what's my simple reason? God wanted him to be out there and wanted this whole, millions and millions of people to go astray believing in this nonsense. And he's going to wipe them off the face of the earth and all that, and they're going to get their due punishment, no question about it. The fact that, what they've done in the world and their sheer numbers, whether people really believe it, don't believe it, they just, give a lip service. A lot of people, even though there are plenty of Bible thumpers out there, true. The vast majority of Christians don't know anything about their own religion. Because if they did, they would have left it a long time ago. It's only people who are thinking, want to be more spiritual and things don't make sense. That's why they end up leaving. Right? But, it's interesting that you see, one thing you do see is that people can be lied to, people can be duped, and you can see that through the centuries. Because it's very easy to pick apart. That's not my job. Go to Rabbi Singer, Rabbi Skobach for that. Very easy to pick apart, what things in their own religion don't make any sense at all. Very, very easy to do. So why do the vast majority not leave it? Well, you know what the simple answer is? Because they're told if they don't believe in JC, they're gonna fry in hell forever. So unless they have to be 100% sure, that's not gonna happen, so they won't leave. That's like the final thing. But if they've seen enough evidence, then it doesn't matter. But, someone will say, come on, what do you think? I've been lied to the last 50 years? Church has been lying to me. Of course they've been lying to you. They'll tell you, you got to pray, you got to fast, you got to this. No, just give me an answer. Don't tell me I have to pray and this and that. Give me an answer. And I had these Mormon, missionaries come to my door when I was in South America. I asked them 3 questions and they kept going on to something else. I said, give me an answer. Come back and give me an answer. If you can't give me an answer, I have no reason to listen to you. None. Right? I basically said, you have no answers. I said, when you have an answer me. Didn't have any answers. So what does a missionary do when they don't have an answer? They're programmed. So they go to the next question. Right? After the 3rd thing that I blew them out of the water, I said, come on, you guys can't come back with anything else. I want these questions answered. Answer my questions, get back to me. That was it. That was the end of that discussion. Now, are most Christians going to do that? Of course not, because it's very easy. It's a very easy life. I don't have to believe in very much. I don't have to do very much. You got to tell me now. If I leave, I'm going to fry now forever. No, I'm not willing to do that. Not willing to do that. So purposely, they leave them ignorant. They don't tell them the question. They tell them you got to have faith. You got to believe. Question? Come on. It's a very easy thing to sell. Lies are very easy to sell. And, the 2 biggest lies, I think, my personal opinion, 2 biggest lies ever in the world, one of them being Christianity, the second being the idea of a Palestinian people. Now we've spoken about, not going to get into politics. That's almost up there. That's like 1 and 1/8. 2 biggest lies in the history of men. And all of academia will tell you the Palestinians, this, that, they never existed as a people. Never. Go back 150 years. Go back when Mark Twain came to, see Israel flattened like a pancake in the late 1800s. He said, all these Palestinians were there. There's nobody there. Nobody. What are they talking about? It's a whole lie. And who made it up? The Israelis. They made it up. And all of academia is going to swear by it. Sorry, the 3rd biggest lie, probably 1C, is evolution. That's probably the 3 right there. But all academia swears by the lie of evolution also. Because otherwise, they don't believe in evolution. What do they have to believe in? The Torah. You don't have anything else. You got these big scientists. I never believe in that, but they have no proof for an existing universe that keeps going and going. That means someone's keeping it going. Einstein and what's his face, Stephen Hawking, through mathematics, they got no answers over here. So I say, Al, Steve, come on. Do this on Orthodox Talk. I had a lot of fun with it. I would tell them, come on, give me an answer. Well, science doesn't have an answer. We can't prove it, but we'll find it. Just like the missing link in evolution. We'll find it. They've been searching for how long? Last thing, I read a Newsweek article years ago. 20 years ago, 25 years ago. What was the closest thing they found? A set of teeth and a jawbone. Boy, that's close. They're grasping at straws, but what are they going to say? We'll never believe in the Bible. You got another choice? What's your other alternative? Steve, Al, come on. Let's be intellectually honest. You have to at least admit it's a possibility. No, we're never going to admit it. But science and mathematics have proven it's an expanding universe. Right? Read A Brief History in Time. That's what he proves. But in the end, he says, no, I can't believe it. No rational person should believe it, but you just brought all the stinking evidence. So you're saying I'm an idiot? I'm an idiot for bringing the evidence and proving, it's a world, it's a universe that's expanding, and someone obviously is making it expanding. But whatever you do, don't listen to my science. What are we, stupid? You really think we're stupid? Come on. Huge lie over here. But we're never going to get to the truth. You know why? Because they'll never entertain the possibility. Where's their open-mindedness? We'll find it. We'll find it in science. You know what science has accomplished over the years? A minuscule thing of what's really out there. They discovered a lot, but you know what? There's plenty they don't know. Plenty. Take a little microbe to, shut down the world for 2 years. No, science had a lot to say about that. They didn't know anything. Right didn't know what the left didn't know what the right, didn't know what to do. Right? And you're going to say whatever about the vaccine. Why are numbers spiking if you got 3/4 of the population vaccinated? You say, oh, vaccines do this, don't that, whatever. But what, if it's supposed to bring the numbers down, why are they spiking? Gee, good question. And it looks silly. Yeah, someone asks, Kabbalah's not recommended for everyone. You're right. It's not recommended for just about everybody. For a very small percentage of people, I would say it's recommended for. If a person's learned enough, they're humble enough, they've worked on character traits enough, then maybe they could learn Kabbalah. Right? So if you were told not to dabble in Kabbalah, that's good. Take the advice. And not only that, if you have, my answer always is, if you study high mathematics, you want to study calculus, you can't learn calculus if you don't study trigonometry or algebra. You can't learn to run if you don't learn to crawl. Right? So how are you going to understand that? I see these Noahides, whatever, quoting Kabbalah, this, that. It's a joke. Probably can't even read Hebrew. And tell me about the spiritual world and about this and about that. Tell me you've gone through the entire Talmud, the commentaries, backwards and forwards, this, that. All right, then we'll have a discussion. Maybe. Won't even be a discussion, but you're right, you shouldn't be dabbling in it. What about Kabbalah all over the Siddur, all over the prayer book? There's not a lot of Kabbalah there. Let's make clear. There's not a lot of Kabbalah there. There are certain things, fine. Right? But if a person was holding by Kabbalah, the prayer book's a whole different prayer book. For most people not holding by Kabbalah, they go, they pray, they do what they have to do. Some people it's more of a spiritual experience. Most people it's less of a spiritual experience, but they're not dabbling in Kabbalah when they pray. I can tell you that. 99% of ultra Orthodox people that are praying, they're not dabbling in Kabbalah when they pray. I promise you that. Bli neder, without a vow, but that's pretty clear. So yeah, there are some parts that aren't, Kabbalistic. So what? So the majority of people pray. Are they looking at it as a Kabbalistic thing? No, not at all. People who know what they're doing and they know Kabbalah, so prayer is a whole different thing. Prayer is a whole different thing. Fine. But that's them, not us. That's not the majority of people, not even close. So yeah, Kabbalah, a person shouldn't touch at all. If a person, has learned a lot of Torah, they worked on character traits, this and that, one thing. It's one thing. But there's a heck of a lot to learn before that. Heck of a lot more to learn. Someone asks, why do English speakers, especially Christians, say Torah says Jews have to keep, i.e. be shomer, to guard, means to guard the mitzvahs, right? All the mitzvahs, doesn't shomer just mean to protect, guard or protect. Yeah, shomer can also mean that, you're protecting it, you're guarding not to sin against it, but really it means negative commands. Don't do this, don't do that. We can't keep all the mitzvahs even if we wanted to. Right? I wasn't born a Kohen, not from the tribe of Levi. Now, there are certain things Kohanim can do today that other Jews can't. Right? They're not, it's really insignificant if you think about it, because we don't have a temple in Jerusalem. So there are a lot of different things they can't do. Right? But, there are things that don't apply to them. That don't apply. There's things that are an ordinary Jew, what we call a Yisrael, is not a Kohen or a Levi. Right? We can only do certain things. What if you don't live in the land of Israel? There are less mitzvahs to do. Less obligations. So we can't keep the entire Torah anyway. And and if a person never got divorced, didn't do that. Right? If a person never had children, right? So you didn't fulfill that. So there are things the person go through and not end up doing. Doesn't mean we don't have, obligations. Sacrifices. Can we bring sacrifices? No. No temple in Jerusalem. Can't bring any sacrifice. So if that's the case, there are a lot of things we can't do. Maybe half of the mitzvahs we can't do. So I can't answer for Christians. I'm not going to answer why they say what they say. I don't really care what they say. Really irrelevant. But we have an obligation to keep the mitzvahs. That is true. Jewish people have to keep it. They have to keep what God says. Now, many mitzvahs we can't keep, just based on technicality. You don't live in the land of Israel, no sacrifices. A lot of mitzvahs you can't keep. Somebody asked, can Noahide celebrate Passover? What does Passover represent? Passover represents Jewish people coming out of bondage, coming out of Egypt. Now, there were people who came out of Egypt with the Jews, some from Egypt, some from other nations that ended up converting. They were part of the mixed multitude. Right? So a non-Jew, not allowed to eat the Paschal offering. So, if a non-Jew wants to read the Haggadah and read about Passover, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. They want to have a Passover Seder. I mean, why? Doesn't apply. Totally doesn't apply. They come out of Egypt? No. You tell me they're a Ger Toshav, even so. There's no status of a Ger Toshav today. Someone who lives in Israel and goes against idolatry, and Jews have to support them and all that. Why not? Because we don't have a Jubilee year. If we don't have a Jubilee year, there's no status. No status to Ger Toshav. Right? So even if Talmud is a Ger Toshav, still, it doesn't apply. Person wants to learn about it, fine. But having a Passover Seder, you want to eat matzah, okay. Nothing wrong with that. But going through other rituals, having matzah, maror, the bitter herbs and going through the whole thing, no, that doesn't apply to non-Jews. Again, you want to buy a couple of Haggadahs, read through it, and whatever, it's fine. The problem's going to be, if a person says, okay, I want to keep it to a certain extent where, let's say like on Shabbos, and they say, I'm going to stop, I'm going to refrain from doing certain types of forbidden work on Shabbos or on a festival. That's the problem. That's like making up your own religion. So, the person's totally going to desecrate Shabbos as a non-Jew, that's fine. Desecrate the holiday, that's fine. But someone will say, come on, I'm not celebrating like a Jew, etc. So yeah, if you wanted to do that, fine. The question is how far you take it. Again, you want to eat matzah, very good. You want to have a few cups of wine, okay. But you got to go through the Seder like a Jew does, I would say no. Yeah, let me see any other questions here. Someone here mentions that a lot of rabbis do not denounce Islam. And they say, was Muhammad a prophet? Maybe they don't want to get killed if they come out and say it. I don't know. It's a false religion. They go against what the Torah says. Both Christians, Muslims go against what Moshe Rabbeinu said. That means it's a false religion. Now, was he a prophet? The Rambam calls him the Isha Meshuga, crazy man. That's how the Rambam calls it. Is he a prophet? No. Oh, maybe I'll get death threats now. We said it. I don't, why are other people not saying it? I don't know. Maybe they're afraid of their own channel. They don't want, bad repercussions. Maybe, they want to show respect. Someone of that faith. We don't hold by it. They do believe in the same God, right? That's the conclusion of most rabbinical authorities. They believe in one God. And that's not a contradiction to our God, even if some say maybe, it's more than one God or whatever aspect of it. Most rabbinical authorities hold that it's not idolatry. Doesn't mean it's not true. Totally doesn't mean it's not true. So, if someone's asked the question, is Muhammad a prophet? Yeah, you shouldn't duck the question. Why are they ducking the question? I don't know. Gotta ask them. Some people like to be politically correct. They don't want to offend anyone. I don't have that issue. People get offended. Okay. We speak the truth. People don't like the truth. They're not going to listen to me or listen to other people like me. They won't. I had someone tell me, and I've gone too far, going against reform and conservative and other things, and I'm very divisive. Okay. That's why I do controversial issues. I am very divisive. Fine. But where do I get all my information from? Where's my information coming from? Other great people, much greater than me. And from sources. You don't like the sources? Go eat Google. Not my problem. We tell it the way it is. People like it. Fine. You want a cream puff answer? Go to a cream puff rabbi. You certainly don't have to listen to me. Other people want to be politically correct. Yeah. We don't have to be politically correct. See, people I went to yeshiva with, more modern, much more modern. Bring in, all kinds of people speak in their synagogue, or tell someone, Martin Luther King Day, went to a church. Where do you get off going to a church? How can a Jew walk into a church? What's the answer? You can't. No, this is solidarity. Rubbish! The English would say. Or as we say in Boston, get out of here. What are you talking about? You can't walk into a church. Not allowed to walk into a church. Right? Even if there's no service going on. There's a question if you have to go into a church to vote, something like that. Okay, that's another issue. But a Jew can't walk into a church. So how can you walk into a church and have this whole thing? Showing solidarity. So you want to show solidarity? We want to be separate. We want to be left alone. We don't have anything to do with these things. You gotta say, no, come on. Gotta love everyone. Who says I have to love everyone? I have to love a Christian? What does the Torah tell? What does King David say? I hate those that hate you. I love those that love you. Christians come in the category of hate. Forget about what the Christians have done throughout the millennium. Killed Jews, converted them, all this. The false religion. So if it's false, you gotta come out against it. I'm not gonna make every video coming out against Christians. I don't need to do that. Got plenty of other people do that. Yeah, but you want to tell me I should be open-minded until my brains fall on the floor. So I let this one come speak. That one, solidarity. Stay separate. Stay separate. That's it. And with Reform and conservative rabbis too, you don't sit on a panel with them. You don't even get the, you don't have discussions with them. There are all kinds of issues. Great rabbis, last generation, Moshe Feinstein, Rav Yaakov Kavnetsky, Rav Yoshe Be'er Soloveitchik, all blessed memory. They all said you can't sit with them. So how do some people do that? I can't answer for other people. I'll make it a little more graphic. I can't answer stupid. And that's stupid. What are you giving them a pedestal for? What are you giving them their soapbox to say their kfir, to say their, to say their heresy? Just so you can answer it? You think people are going to listen? Maybe some will, some won't. People go to, far ranks. Oh, no, I'm going to try and draw people closer. It's permissible. The great rabbis of the last generation said, no such thing. No such thing. So now, someone's going to say, so why do people do it? I don't answer why people do it. I said, you can't fix stupid. People do things for all kinds of things. All kinds of agendas people have. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with Torah. They think it is. And I've seen what people, I went to yeshiva with many years ago, what they're doing now, it makes me want to vomit. Thank God I get out of it. Thank God for that. Who knows where I'd be today? I'd be some big time leftist, who knows what. I grew up in Massachusetts. I would have been an Orthodox Jew. I'd be a big time leftist. Huge big time leftist. Thank God I'm not. I'm going to answer for why people do what they do. That's forbidden. So how does someone go and a Jew go into a church? What's that? What's the permissibility? It's forbidden. How's an Orthodox Jew go to an intermarriage? I don't know. A friend of mine went to his sister's wedding. How'd he do it? He said they all knew I was there under protest. I said, really? I said, you had a sign? Put a sign on your forehead while you're eating your kosher food, doing the horror when they did a horror? I said, come on. What's the permissibility? Family. Rubbish, number 2. So what? You're going to put a lot of pressure on you. I get it. That means it's permissible. They tell you to break Shabbos, you're going to break Shabbos. They tell you to eat treif, you're going to eat treif. Come on, there's a limit. What's it? That's different. Why is that different? You tell that person who's into marrying, you take them to a synagogue, you tell them to open the ark. Why would I open the ark? There's no service. Just open the ark. Open the ark, take the Torah out. Okay, okay, we'll put it down over here. Let's take off the mantle, you take off the cover, open it up. So now you're gonna pick it up. What do you want me to do with this? And now I want you to spit on it and throw it on the ground and dance all over it. So you're out of your mind. Why in the world would I do that? Because that's exactly what you're doing. This is being a little more graphic. So you were sitting there spitting, in God's face on a regular basis. And that you're taking a Torah scroll and just throwing it in the toilet. That's what you're doing. So now, if we represent that Torah scroll, we're trying to keep as many Torah mitzvahs as possible. How is it possible to go to such a thing? It's a family. Again, a Jew marries out, they forfeit their status over here. There's no repentance unless the person converts. There is no repentance. I asked my Rebbe once. Gemara in Eruvin says, someone doesn't do bris milah. They don't do circumcision. Right? They say that Abraham stands over the pit or he hovers over the pit, of hell, except for people like this. He lets them fall in. Doesn't save them. Doesn't help them. That's what everyone. Someone intermarried, he goes, he's just going to go by the wayside. He's going to say, oh, got to take a walk. I'm busy. Sorry. And they're going to fall in. Why shouldn't they fall in? It's the single worst transgression in many ways a person can do. Cut themselves off. Eating pig is bad. Homosexuality is bad. Desecration of Shabbos is bad. A lot of bad things out there. But every Jew who belongs to a synagogue knows, if you would ask them, A or B, no buts, no nothing, right? Multiple choice, what they call they call it American test, or in Israel. What's an American test in Israel? It's called multiple choice. Anyway, A or B, are you allowed to intermarry? Yes or no? A is yes, B is no. Right? So they'll say B, but no, there are no buts. They know. In today's generation, they don't care. They're unaffiliated, they're not going to care. But they know. They know it's a pretty serious thing. Pretty serious thing. So someone who's going to do that, they're going to do it anyway. So what? I have to go there, put my stamp of approval. Who says? Who says I'm allowed to? Oh, it's going to cause friction in the family. Okay. So it'll cause friction. And people yell and scream and put you in a bad state. Let them say whatever they want. Would you rather be chastised by God in the next world? Or would you rather be, embarrassed, and have people saying all kinds of things at you, whatever, in this world? I'll take this world. What the garbage people are going to say, I'm not budging. It's wrong. You'll know it's wrong, and that's it. You want me to say it's a good thing? No. You want me to come? No. So deal with it. You're a fanatic. You're breaking up the family. Okay. You want to make that claim? I'm reconnecting. My answer was, I'm reconnecting to a chain that goes back 3,000 years. You're disconnecting from that chain. So who's breaking the chain here? I'm just reconnecting to that chain. They don't like that answer either. Okay? So you know what? You're in a no-win situation. So what do? We'll quote the inevitable Whoopi Goldberg. You suck it up. That's what you do. That's what you do. Let people say what they want and you move on. But there could be a lot of pressure. You're right. Could get very heated. Could be. So what? What am I going to do? If it's wrong, it's wrong. You can't change a pork chop and tell me it's kosher. You can't do that. No, this is different. We just want you to be there. For what? So I can watch you trample on a Sefer Torah? I can watch you spit on a Sefer Torah? No, I'll pass. Don't think there aren't ramifications. There are ramifications. There are ramifications. Someone asked, can a Jew eat chocolate eggs meant for Easter? The chocolate's kosher. Can eat it, it's kosher. is a pagan thing? No, it's not idolatry. It's not idolatry. It's not even used for idolatry, right? You say, but it's a similar thing. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I wouldn't say it's used for the exact same thing. If it's kosher, you can eat it, right? Now, some people would say, I remember a number of years ago I think it was Pepsi and the rabbinic supervision, it was my Rebbe's Hechsher, that they had a commercial, I think, or some advertisements about dinosaurs. They took the rabbinic supervision off for that reason. I mean, they put it back eventually when they stopped it, but there's also a thing with, I think with Doritos. They had some sort of advertisement for the LGBT community, and they took their rabbinical supervision off till after Passover. So that's something else. You want to tell me you're eating something that was a holy wafer? The holy wafer that's used by idolatry, that's a different issue. Now you want to ask a different question. If it's not used for idolatry, it's totally kosher. Is it still going in the ways of non-Jews? Now, some people will probably say, yeah, just avoid it. Find other chocolate. It's just what it represents. But practically speaking, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's not like you're giving into the pagan things. Okay. It happens to be in that shape and that thing. I don't know if it's something I would like jump up and down about, but some people would say you got to stay away from it. You don't want to have anything to do with these things. So yeah, someone points out screaming at protests. You won't see me necessarily at a protest. There's no point to scream at them. You don't want to make a bigger, you don't want to make a bigger scene, but at the same time, at the same time, people say, things in social media, and like someone, said this week, why would I listen to you? Because you put these people down and those people down, and we have to love everyone. I don't know. King David doesn't say that. A Jew, cannot hate another Jew in their heart, right? But if they're doing the wrong thing and they're going in a seriously wrong way, as Rabbi Victor Miller said, we hate them. That's what we quoted. That's what I quoted on Tanakh Talk, exactly what he said. It came to Reform Jews. Hates them, and he hates what they stand for. He's disagreeing. He's going further. He's not saying you hate the act, but you're not allowed to hate a Jew. No, he said you hate what they do. You hate the person also. That doesn't apply. What they're doing, well beyond. Well beyond. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked, did the Ramchal say Adam would have children if he never sinned? No, he doesn't say that. The Ramchal there says that it would have been elevated. He does say, I think, that they would have children. He would have had children. No, it says he had children. It just says in paragraph 3, in section 2, chapter 4, section paragraph 3, it says, according to the highest judgment, it turned out none of them deserved to rise above this degraded level, because Adam ate from the tree, and his children had fallen as a result of their sin. In other words, had he not eaten from the tree, his children, it would have been different. Doesn't mean it would have had children. It just means their children would have been on a much higher level. They would have been on a much higher spiritual level. If they would have been on a much higher spiritual level, the world looks different, but it wasn't until they got the Torah. The Torah changed us. How did it change us? How did it elevate the soul? By mitzvahs, by that covenant. If a person is a cardiac Jew, doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs, then what happens? Their soul doesn't change. Soul just atrophies. That's what I would call it. With totally atrophy. And if the soul with total atrophy, what happens? It dies. Essentially, it can be sparked, but essentially, it's got so much garbage on it, it's very hard to breathe, so to speak. So if that's true, then the only difference is, again, what differentiates a Jew from a non-Jew? God says you're the chosen nation. But if a person's a chosen nation and they're part of the chosen nation, guess what? you have to uphold what it says. And if you don't uphold what it says, you don't do what it says, then what makes you chosen? That makes us different. Doesn't mean a person can't repent, but that's what elevates the soul. What elevates the soul is that covenant of Mount Sinai and the mitzvahs we keep. If you don't keep the mitzvahs, is the soul elevated? You still have that elevated soul. That's true. But you're not that different from a non-Jew at that point. Someone asked these protests, desecration of God's name. Is the desecration of God's name if you hate the person as well? Desecration of God's name is a very specific definition. First of all, if you tell me that has to be done in front of 10 Jews, right, that would be a desecration of God's name, depending on what he said, or what they've done. But depends on the person also. Why? Depends what they do, where they're holding. For somebody, the Talmud says, desecration of God's name is if they didn't walk 4 arm lengths in the street without Torah and tefillin, without the towels and tefillin. In other words, they walked in the street without towels and tefillin. By them, it was a desecration of God's name. Someone else, if they didn't pay the butcher on time, that was a desecration of God's name. For us, it depends on the person, where they're holding, what they've done. But people throw this out a dime a dozen. Oh, that's desecration of God's name. That it might be a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a desecration of God's name. In other words, if a parent would tell a Jew, I want you to desecrate Shabbos, you're not allowed to. You don't have an obligation to listen. It says one of the 10 commandments. It says you got to listen. You got to honor your parents. Well, keeping Shabbos is also one of the 10 commandments. So what comes first? Shabbos. People say, what? You didn't listen to your parents? You got an obligation to honor them? Oh, that's a disgrace. That's a desecration of God's name. That's not a desecration of God's name. That's listening to what God says. Problem is, people throw around this term like a rag doll. It's got a specific definition, but it depends on a number of factors. Depends A, what the person did. B, where they're holding in the world. How it's done. I mean, there are a lot of factors to say, oh, that's a desecration of God's name. It could be, could not be. Right? It depends. And King Solomon in Ecclesiastes says it's time to love, it's time to hate. That's a desecration of God's name. You are this, someone's homosexual. We'll make it real graphic here, right? Because someone here said I'm fearless. So we'll pick on homosexuals here. The act itself is an abomination. Oh, you're homophobic. No. The Torah says it's an abomination. The thing itself. Do I personally hate homosexuals? No. Do I hate what they do? Yeah. Why? Because one of the worst things you can do as a Jew. Non-Jew also is forbidden, by the way. So in that sense, it's not personal. I don't hate secular Jews personally. They might annoy me at some things they do or whatever, but it's not a personal vendetta per se. And if it's personal, that's taking revenge. That's forbidden also. It's also a Torah prohibition, right? But at the same time, when it comes to homosexuality, for instance, I have nothing personally against them. God does, the Torah does, and I don't care what people say. It's unnatural. It's not what's supposed to be for mankind. Because the Torah says, cleave to your wife, not to the same species, not to another guy, or for a woman to another woman. Right? So that's forbidden. That's forbidden. The Torah has a personal vendetta against them? No. We're not calling them names. The Torah says it's an abomination. It's not what God wants. It's a pretty severe prohibition. And if it becomes personal, that's a different issue. Right? That's forbidden. You can hate the act, not necessarily the person. Right? Now, if you hate the person, so you could say, well, as Rav Victor Miller said, I hate what they do. They're disgusting because of what they do. And what they're doing, what they're doing in front of God and this and that. So he'll say 100% you hate them for what they represent. Is that personal? It's not personal. They're disgusting in God's eyes. What do you want from me? That's not personal. Or you tell a secular Jew, well, I can't answer amen to your blessing. I can't give you an honor at this or that because you desecrate Shabbos in public. It's not personal. Totally not personal. But there's a reality. there's an absolute reality. You desecrate Shabbos in public. There are ramifications. You don't like it. What might Rebbe go say? Eat kugel. Go eat kugel. You don't like it. Too bad. That's the reality. Again, you have to empathize. You can't say it like that. But, that's the reality. It's not personal. Not a personal vendetta. I don't want you to get this honor. That has nothing to do with that. If there's a way we can do it, fine. If there's not, there's not. And there's situations the person can be put in, there's just no way out. Let's make clear. There's no way out of certain situations. You cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. I will, that's my statement. Anyone who's going to use that, I got a patent pending, so I'll sue you. Right? You cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. Because I want this and I want that. It doesn't matter what you want or what you don't want. There are ramifications. Well, you're a minority. This is what we hold. There's no way around it. You have to go and acknowledge X. Well, I can't. The Torah says it's forbidden. But not about what I want or what I don't want. It's about, is the Torah true or is it not true? If I believe it's true, there are ramifications. That's it. Not personal. You got to explain to people. It's not personal. Not personal. Hate gay people. Or lesbians or anyone else. Or, transgenders or who knows what. Whatever. It's not a personal thing. Goes against what God says. And God says that's disgusting. So what am I supposed to say? It's okay for you. It's just God says it's disgusting. You're holding by what God says or you're not. So if you're not holding by what God says, okay. But if I hold by what God says, it's not personal. And anyone who, it says, oh, I can't stand it, but they don't bring out the Bible says it's forbidden. That's being homophobic. That would be forbidden. That's racist. Right? That's totally being racist. Right? So, I have nothing against non-Jews, as long as they don't hurt other Jews, they don't intermarry with Jews. Right? They intermarry with Jews, it's a problem. I mean, not their problem, it's the Jews' problem. Right? I don't want Jews to intermarry with non-Jews. No offense, any non-Jews out there. Right? We want to preserve Judaism, not destroy it. Not a personal thing. The non-Jew hasn't done anything wrong. It's the Jews done everything wrong here. So if the Jews done something wrong, is it a personal vendetta against a non-Jew? No. And nothing to do with it. Because the Torah says it's forbidden. Someone asked, person wakes up in the middle of the night and falls asleep very quickly. They have to say Moda'ani. No. They only say Moda'ani when they wake up for good, even if it's in the middle of the night. Let's say they wake up at 3 a.m, can't go back to sleep. Then they should say Moda'ani. Start their day. Even if they go back to sleep 2 hours later and they take a nap, whatever. For them, that's when they're waking up. So you wouldn't say it then. You would only say it if you're getting up for the rest of the night. Let me see other questions here. One allowed to pray in the negative for fear of something not to happen. Are you allowed to pray? And then, first of all, you're not allowed to be afraid. Being afraid, is a serious lack of emunah, lack of faith in God, right? But so the person allowed to pray in the negative for fear of something not to happen. Person's allowed to pray that God protects him. Person's allowed to pray. Right? A person is allowed to pray, God takes care of their needs. A person is allowed to pray that, if they have an evil inclination for a certain thing, they can pray for God to help them stop them. That they're allowed to do. That 100% they're allowed to do. So is something that, if you have a fear, is it more liable to happen? I don't know. I don't think so. If a person has an evil inclination, they know if they've done things wrong, and they know if they're put in a certain situation or whatever, they may continue to do it. Yeah, they can pray for God to stop it, to try and help them with their evil inclination. But in general, not allowed to fear. Rashi says in Brachos, Tractate Brachos, he says, what's the only thing you're allowed to fear if I'm going to forget Torah? If I'm going to forget Torah. Listen, unfortunately, there's a lot of terrorism going on in Israel right now. The person said, well, I'm afraid to go on the bus. Well, maybe something's going to happen. It's a lack of emunah. I'm not saying you put yourself in a bad situation. you put yourself in a dangerous situation. That's a different issue. But, if a person's doing their normal, putting their best foot forward, would I go to the Western Wall at the end of prayers of the Muslims and there, 50,000 Muslims there? I wouldn't necessarily go then to pray. Why not? Because, something could happen over here. I gotta say it's a lack of faith. If it's a dangerous situation, right? The example is by the Haggadah Friday night. This Friday night, Saturday night for everyone else outside of Israel as well, right? At the end of the Haggadah, you open up the door, right? Open up the door, and the halacha is we should sleep with our doors open, unlocked, because it's a night of tremendous guarding. But if you live in if you live in a place where most places you leave the door open, who knows, what could happen, right? So then, okay, then you lock the doors. But it says the halacha is that you don't have to worry over here. But if it's a place where something could happen, then then that would supersede it. Someone mentioned saw a bunch of post Joseph's grave was being desecrated, right? Was it ossuary or was it the marker for his grave? I don't know. They desecrated the tombstone. They've done it a number of times. They burnt it to the ground once. It was one of a number of years ago. And anyone who goes there, they have to go with like police protection. It's a very dangerous area there. Very, very dangerous area. It is interesting. Like, you have to ask the question that the places that we own, according to the Bible, that belong to the Jewish people are places of tremendous amount of Arabs there. Hebron, one of them, right? Shechem, another one, right? Nablus, as it's called in English. So you're going to say, what's Pshat? First of all, in Hebron, you got like 1,000, maybe 1,000 Jews there and like 300,000, 400,000 Arabs there. It's always it's always an army presence there. Otherwise, they get massacred. Nothing to talk about. In Shechem, there are obviously no Jews there. No Jews there. And these are pretty holy areas. So what happened? Obviously, we didn't have a merit. We lost that merit, that protection over there. And that God gave it away to others. He gave it away to the Arabs. Right? But, it boggles the mind. But we own it. We bought it legally. As the Talmud tells us. Very good. So why don't we have a merit into it today? Sin. That's a simple answer. Common language, chum don't want it, chum don't get it. Oh, you're not going to listen to me, so I'm going to take you away from these places. Ask my Rebbe once, you go to a place, you go to Hebron, you go on the bus. You go on the bus, or even you drive there. Let's say you drive there, and you go and you get injured. Or let's say a person God forbid, got killed. They got killed going to a place like Hebron. I'm not going to say Shechem. Shechem's a lot more dangerous. A lot more dangerous. So I asked him, person get killed, is that considered suicide? He said no. Because, it's not considered, so dangerous. If you went into a place that's really dangerous and something happened, okay, you're a fool. You shouldn't have done it. For that, you'd be liable. A person gave up their life. Because anyone who wants to go pray there, you have to go with an army presence. You can't just go there yourself. Same thing, a person's buried on the Mount of Olives. You want to go there. You have a loved one buried there. You have to go with an army presence. It's a dangerous place. Not saying you can't go. You got to go with protection. Someone has that the same thing about what's going on in Ukraine. About Shem Tov and the Maggid, Nachman. I don't know. You can. I will say like this: there is, every place the Rambam says, God can destroy, if there's more sin or not. Anti-Semitism exists because it does. There can be desecration of graves, of other things. And could it be it's a judgment on the place? Not necessarily. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a judgment on the place. It's just that the anti-Semitism is just tremendously strong, in that place. And you hear stories of what was done in Ukraine in the 1700s. I mean, horrific what they did to Jews. The massacre, the late 1600s, Chmielnicki massacres. They brutally murdered people, tortured them. So, is it a shock? Is it a shock like they would desecrate graves in Ukraine? No, not at all. I have a neighbor of mine, speaking on Friday night, he's telling me, grew up in the Ukraine. He grew up and he just said it's like a lot of, there are a tremendous amount of Jews there, but a lot of them just left because there's just so much anti-Semitism there. Either they could smile to you, be so nice to you, and then stab you in the back. Like Arabs, no different. These people are brutal. I mean, just brutal what they did to Jews. So, is it shocking like that could happen? Is it judgment on the place? No, I don't think it's necessarily judgment on the place per se. I think it's just a judgment on the people themselves. Just they're animals. They're absolute animals. So, and I mentioned this before. The only problem is you get a lot of Jews that are stuck there. The Ukrainians, I see this on social media all the time. Got to free them and help them and this and that. They and Russia both have blood on their hands. A lot of blood on their hands. A lot of Jewish blood. Whatever happens to them, they have it coming. Either way. Europe, they're going to have their day also. Europe also going to get massacred at one point. It's going to happen, whether it happens, by War of Gog and Magog or it happens before that. They got a lot of Jewish blood. That's been spilled in Europe. But, in Russia and the Ukraine, people are brutal. This person told me he left Ukraine, I think, when he was like 14, when he was 18, I think. He left Ukraine. Someone else told me went to America when he was 14. Not one good thing to say. Not one good thing to say about growing up in Ukraine and growing up in Russia in general. So, it could be just anti-Semitism, nothing more than that. But they both have it coming. Both Russia and Ukraine have it coming. As we said a bunch of times. The only problem is you get all these Jews there. There are hundreds of thousands of Jews still there. Stuck there. But a lot of them, it used to be a lot more there. And then a lot of them fled. A lot of them left. A lot of the youth left. Well, people that are, stuck there are older. Definitely older. Somebody asks, as a Noahide, can I have females as friends? Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I would tell you to go watch the movie When Harry Met Sally. I'll age myself. A movie in the 80s. I think in the 80s or early 90s. That basically never works out. Never friends, really. Because one thing normally leads to another. But in general, yeah, it wouldn't be a problem. Would I recommend it? Again, unless it's going to be a forbidden relationship or something like that, then it wouldn't be a problem. Then it should be okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Boy, you never know where these Q&As go. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. We got no more for today. I don't believe you, but I'm sure there'll be more coming. Probably, busy with Passover like we are here. But I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. There will be a Q&A on Thursday. That'll be right before checking the comment, so I don't think that should be a problem. So anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Rabbi Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com.